Hi, this is Dr. Grace Chen. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and MGR-approved EMDR consultant. In the past 2 years, I have facilitated 85 EMDR basic training consultation groups and over 50 EMDR certification groups. So I conducted a qualitative research using my basic training consultation group notes and identified the 10 most frequently asked questions from my trainees. So this series of short videos are designed for the beginning EMDR learners. They start out to incorporate the EMDR into their clinical practice. And the 10 final top last question is related to the mechanism of bilateral stimulation, such as how fast, how slow, and how long. The short answer to this question is, which phase of EMDR are you using bilateral stimulation? If you are in phase 2, you do slow and short bilateral stimulation. But if you are in the reprocessing phases of phase 4 to 7, you do long and fast bilateral stimulation. As that being said, this is just a general rule of thumb. For example, clients with neurodivergent issues might need to adjust the bilateral stimulation speed and duration with them. So the most important thing is that watch your client and adjust accordingly. But generally, the rule of the thumb is that phase 4 to 7 reprocessing you do fast and long. Phase 2 resourcing you do slow and short. Bilateral stimulation, or BLS, as EMDR clinicians often refer to, is what makes EMDR stands out and different than the other type of therapy. A lot of times when client or clinicians say, I want to do EMDR or I don't do EMDR, usually what they mean is that I want to do bilateral stimulation or I didn't do bilateral stimulation. Or even more specifically, what client wants is that I want to do a fast and long bilateral stimulation to reprocess my trauma memory. However, EMDR is more than just bilateral stimulation. There are two situations that we can incorporate bilateral stimulation. In the phase 2 preparation, one goal is to help the client get used to bilateral stimulation, and the other one is to use bilateral stimulation while introducing resourcing strategies such as complex or container. And then we are building the client's ability to self-regulate during the reprocessing phases. So in phase 2, we want the resources such as calm to sink into the somatic experiences. Therefore, bilateral stimulation is often short and slow. In the phase 4, the goal is to desensitize the felt sense of the trauma memories in the memory network. So bilateral stimulation is often long and fast in order for us to take on the working memory to desensitize the felt sense. I often use a surgery as an analogy for the preparation and reprocessing phases. Phase 2, the preparation phase, is like a pre-op for the surgery. We are teaching different resources so the client know how to care for themselves post-op, meaning after reprocessing sessions. And the reprocessing session is like the surgery. So during the resourcing, clinicians can have short conversations with clients to inquire about their experiences when we set up the resourcing, and then we can even have longer sessions to check in, longer conversations to check in after bilateral stimulation and make sure then client knows what does that mean when we say, what do you notice? In addition, clinicians can also share different kind of bilateral stimulation, such as the hand bilateral stimulation, the tone or tapping with the client, and then check which bilateral stimulation that works better for the client in order to prepare for the reprocessing. More importantly, that we are preparing a client to what to notice by using resourcing experiences. And at the same time, reprocessing phases or the phase 4 to 7 is kind of like surgery. We're focusing on getting the traumatic experiences out of the memory network or integrate them into adaptive memory network. Therefore, it will be alone and fast for clinicians, so that we can texting on the working memory by being very fast and allow client to integrate the trauma memories and desensitize the trauma experiences. It's just like during the surgery, the surgeons and the patient don't talk. During the reprocessing phases, the clinicians check in with the client after each set of bilateral stimulation, but we generally get out of the way to let the spontaneous reprocessing unfold. We trust the client system has the healing power to take them to where they need to be. So this is a comparison of bilateral stimulation in the resourcing phase and in the reprocessing phase. In the phase 2 resourcing, the focus is resourcing build the client's ability to self-regulate, and then the speed is slow and short. We are targeting for them to have a somatic calm feeling or somatic different feelings, and then we can have some conversation with the client. In the phase 4 to 7, it's a reprocessing phase. The speed is fast and long. Longer bilateral stimulation is phase 2. The short means shorter bilateral stimulation duration. And the target on in the phase 4 to 7 is that we are trying to desensitize the trauma memory by taxing on the working memory. And then we step out of the way and don't talk with the client too much. So you can check out my earlier video about what is bilateral stimulation, what is the AIP model, and why does EMDR work by clicking on this playlist.